Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Friday, May the 20th, beginning of a long weekend for those in Canada, of course. And, of course, the U.S. will have theirs next weekend. Very exciting weekend ahead, but especially from a hockey perspective as the second round continues. It's Ian Cameron, just me today, Alex, Jimmy, and Andrew. They're all MIA today for various reasons, but I'm here, and our guest is here, more importantly. Another guest joining us here on the Ice Guys show. We've had a month full of just outstanding guests, people that are either still playing the game or have played the game in the past. It's been great to get that player's perspective on things throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. And we have Connor Graham joining us today here on the Friday edition of the Ice Guys. Connor, welcome to the Ice Guys. Glad you could make your Ice Guys debut. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. And I guess your boys are getting an early start on the long weekend then, huh?
Apparently, yeah, exactly. They ditched me is what they did, yeah. No, one's banged up, seriously. One's feeling under the weather. The other's traveling today, and I think the other one is also had an appointment that they couldn't get out of. So that's what happens sometimes. But great to have you, Connor. Talk about your hockey past and your hockey background, and obviously not your hockey past, your hockey present. As well, you're still playing and going to be back next season. But talk about your past in junior, what you've been doing professionally the last few years, and all of that in terms of your playing career.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a local guy, a GTA guy. Grew up playing in the GTHL. Was able to play for some good organizations there. Was able to finish with the Marlies.
Ontario will be proud of that. Good old Canadian boy.
Yeah,
good old Ontario
exactly.
boy. And he always pumps up the GTHL. Yeah.
Oh, always for sure. Yeah, tons of great players come out of that league back then and even now still. So proud to say I played in that growing up. And when I was 16, I was presented with the unique opportunity to go over and play in Salzburg, Austria. Played for the Red Bull U20 program, and that was a ton of fun. And after that, came back to Ontario, played 3 years with the Ottawa 67s. And after that, went to school, played for University of Toronto, ended up transferring, finished Wilfrid Laurier, got my degree during the pandemic, and then, spent last season bouncing around the States, split between a few coast teams and a stint in the SPHL as well.
All right, good stuff. Now, goals for next season. Obviously, you get train hard. It's what every player does, no matter what league or level you're at. You always want to, train your best in the off season so you're ready to go come training camp next year. But do you have goals in mind? I want to be in this league. I want to be at this level next year and moving forward. What are Connor Graham's goals going into next season?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to play for one, maybe two teams. I don't know if I could handle playing for 5 different teams again. Bit of a roller coaster for sure. I think I'd like to establish myself as an East Coast player. I think I have it in me. And then I think probably a lot of guys would say the same. And when you hit this point in your career where I'm at, just my age and where I played, I think my new NHL is the AHL, if you will. So the ultimate goal would be to try and get as many games as I could at that level. But that being said, too, I next year for sure I would like to establish myself as an East Coast player.
Question. That's definitely, it makes sense because looking at your past resume, which I did before the show started, it seems like, hey, ECHL, you got there, this year, and want to be there more of a longevity, make that your permanent home, so to speak, next year and moving forward. Great stuff, and we wish you all the best, certainly, in the future with that as well. Definitely. All right, so let's talk NHL Stanley Cup playoffs because that's what primarily I know our viewers and listeners are excited about, and that's what they're here for, of course, from a betting perspective, talking NHL every day. Last night's games, we will start, of course, with Tampa Bay and Florida, and the Tampa Bay Lightning take a 2-0 stranglehold of that series over the Florida Panthers. And look, I'm just going to be quite honest and say it. The Florida Panthers have not gotten to a level that you need to get to win playoff games in terms of how hard you have to compete. All right. If you watch that game last night, Tampa Bay is getting traffic. Tampa Bay's got layers in terms of the front of the. Actually, you know what? We got a question. Is Connor a big scrapper? Because apparently someone's asking that because they associate ECHL with a lot of fighting. Well, there is a lot more fighting in that league, but you in particular, are you a scrapper?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the beard or what that makes people think that, but no, I'm not. And actually, the coast has changed a lot. There's a lot of really good young skill guys. There's fights, of course, but it's not. I don't think it's the circus it used to be.
Yeah, there you go. So, okay, so that's good because it definitely was. I know even just 5, 10, 15 years ago it was. So, yeah,
For
there you
sure.
go. Definitely. So sorry to disappoint you there, Buddy Snurfit, with the question in the chat. But anyway, getting back to Tampa, Florida. Look, the Lightning, we know they can win big playoff games. We know what they can do. We know they're good at both ends of the ice. We know they've got arguably the best goaltender in the world, certainly one of them in Andrei Vasilevsky. Didn't always play that way during the regular season. Like April was not a very good month for him.
Yeah.
But boy, has he played well here in the playoffs. And when you look at it, Tampa Bay's getting to the tough areas of the ice. They're getting traffic. They're going to the blue paint. They're going to the slot area. You look at the perfect deflection by Corey Perry. They're looking for stuff like that. It's not always got to be the pretty play. And too many times the Florida Panthers are trying to look for that pretty play to score a goal, and look no further than their absolutely embarrassing, pathetic, disgraceful power play. I mean, it's just absolutely hideous to see this team operate with the man advantage. Everybody's stationary. There's too much passing. Just simplify it. For traffic, bodies to the net, and shoot from anywhere. You don't have to split the atom to figure out how to fix an ailing power play, guys. I mean, my goodness. I mean, that's all you need to do. And Florida's had issues with that, fixing it. Their offense, of course, has been stymied in this series. And look, they survived Washington in the first round with a bad power play, but they are not going to do that here against Florida. That being said, they were right there in the game. It was 1-1. They tied it late in the second, even though Tampa Bay was playing pretty well. But the dagger to give that goal up and have that kind of a defensive breakdown, it just cannot happen at that point where you get caught behind the net. Nobody's out there in front of the net to look after Ross Colton, who buries the game-winning goal with 3 seconds left in the third period to give Tampa the 2-1 lead and the 2-1 win, and more importantly, a 2-0 series lead. I don't want to say it's 100% done for Florida, but they're now in a spot where they have to go on the road for the next 2 games in Tampa Bay, and they've now got to try to win 4 of the next 5 games in this series against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Lightning. And to be honest, it's just all about dedication. It's all about how much are you willing to sacrifice and dig down, blocking shots, getting to the front of the net. Tampa Bay check in both areas so far in this series over. Florida doesn't block enough shots either. There's not enough of that kind of sacrifice going on, and they're in some big trouble now against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Connor, what are your thoughts on the game last night and the series?
Yeah, well, I think it's very evident when watching the two teams play that one knows how to win in the playoffs, and the other one is still trying to figure it out. I mean, Tampa, like you said, 2 cups in a row. They're the best closers in the game. They showed that versus Toronto in Game 7, and they've showed it so far through 2 games versus Florida. And it's just, Florida obviously is 0% power plays terrible, especially in the playoffs. You need to capitalize on those opportunities. And just leaving a guy open in front of the net with 5 seconds to go. I mean, why you had, I know it's Kucherov back there, and Kucherov's as good as he is, but you can't send 2D behind the net chasing him and leave a guy wide open in front. That's just, it's the minor details. It's just, I think Tampa, there's so much to be said about knowing how to win, especially this time of year. And I mean, I think it's really easy to cheer for Florida because you got guys like Joe Thornton on that roster, and it's someone new, and everyone would love to see them win. But it's just so hard to beat Tampa, and Tampa's just so good at what they do. And like you said, like they got like Stamkos is laying out blocking shots all over the place, and they know how to win and they know how to close, and they're just not giving Florida an inch right now. And that 2-0 going back to Tampa, that's tough. Like, Florida's got a roster that can win 4 or 5 games, but I don't know if they can do it versus Tampa in May.
No, absolutely. And I did say to Alex B. Smith, even though he's not on the show today, I would do the Dave Mishkin impression of the call of Ross Colton's goal last night for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'll do it again. Score! Score! Ross Colton! Ross Colton! Unbelievable! An incredible goal! 3 seconds left. The Lightning lead it. The Lightning lead it. 2-1. That's good Dave Mishkin there. And he gets so
Yeah.
excited. Like you hear the heavy breathing in between the lines when Tampa Bay scores a big goal. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's very similar to the sound of a Dave Mishkin goal,
Oh
call
yeah.
of the goal. He's been the Lightning radio voice for 2 decades, and he's just like bonkers
Yeah,
when
well, I
he's
even remember his voice back when they won the cup in '04 as a kid. Like, just that was like the one, I guess, soundbite I always associated with them was just like this guy on the radio just yelling and screaming. Couldn't
yeah.
believe it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Talk about having the passion and the energy. I mean, unbelievable. But he's had some incredible calls like that in terms of the big goals, especially in playoff time. If you search YouTube, now we've done a good job with the YouTube clips, but we're being persecuted here, so we've got to lay off with the clips. But definitely search them on Dave Mishkin, and you'll find some pretty good clips with that in terms of his calls from the past. But had another one last night, and Tampa Bay with big control now of this series, up 2-0. And the other game last night ended up being a fascinating game. And really, bravo, tip of the cap, salute, all of that to the St. Louis Blues last night. That was an incredible show of adjustments, figuring out where it went wrong in game one and fixing it and correcting it. And look, Craig Berube, we don't give him enough credit. This is now, another sign of him in the playoffs from a coaching standpoint, doing one hell of a job. We know he took this team to the Stanley Cup when his first year there, took over the team mid-season. They ended up winning the Stanley Cup 2019. And they've been a pretty good hockey team, really, for the most part. They've had some bumps in the road overall, but for the most part, they've had, pretty good. They've been pretty good under Berube. And you could tell what St. Louis did differently in game two right away last night. Game one, it was a wave of attack, one line after another from the Colorado Avalanche, and the St. Louis Blues were not stemming the tide at all. It was just an onslaught on Jordan Binnington, and if not for his heroics in game one, that game doesn't even get to overtime. It could have easily been 8-2, for Colorado, but it got to overtime because Binnington was great, but they were just letting the speed through the neutral zone really generate for the Avs, get that speed, give up the blue line too easily, and the rest was history. And Colorado, was just swarming St. Louis. You didn't see anything close to that last night in game two. What they did is they deployed more of their forwards, the 3 forwards on the ice at any time through the neutral zone. That's what they did. And they just kept them there, essentially. Like, we're going to really take away any sort of time and space you have through the middle of the ice. Name me the times last night where you saw Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, or many of these Avalanche forwards who just love to rush the puck up the ice, from end to end. Name me a time when you saw that last night. You didn't. And that's a credit to the St. Louis Blues and the way they defended, as a 5-man unit, in all 3 zones last night, but especially in the neutral zone. I mean, that was definitely, they said numbers on the puck is one of those phrases I always hear Craig Berube say. And, probably other coaches will as well. Numbers supporting the puck. There's not just one player or 2 players around the puck. There's 3 sometimes, so that we can get the numbers, we get the possession, and we don't let them do anything with it. And we saw that over and over again from the St. Louis Blues last night. That was the big difference. I mean, Colorado could not ramp up anything in terms of speed and puck, carrying through the neutral zone, and it made all the difference in the world last night. I mean, do we see McKinnon as well? You know what he's like when he goes end to end. He's like a horse. He starts to giddy up. He's got that kind of horse-like skating stride, if you will. And we see him giddy up, and he goes from end to end, and we never saw him do that once last night in game two. So unbelievable team defense from the Blues. And Binnington was great again, but he had a lot more help. I mean, the team defense in front of him was a whole hell of a lot better last night in game two than it was in game one, and they capitalized on their chances. The power play, again, Colorado can't give, I don't care, how good Colorado is, you still can't give St. Louis a 5-on-3, in a critical time of the game, because the Blues have a phenomenal power play. They've had a great power play all year, and they capitalized on David Perron, by the way, outstanding again, couple goals for him, which was great to see. Vegas probably kind of pissed off they didn't keep him, but at the time they couldn't. But seeing what Perron's doing in St. Louis, it's been special. And they end up getting the 4-1 victory in game two last night. If you took St. Louis, you cashed at plus 200. They were on the money line last night. So big underdog. And I have them in the series at plus 2.5 games. I chickened out. I did not take St. Louis to win the series, but I do have them plus 2.5 games, which means as long as they get this series to at least 6 games, that bet is going to win. And boy, they took a big step forward to doing that, getting a split in Denver, and now going home for game 3 in St. Louis. And a very quiet night for any of the big guns for Colorado, to be quite honest. Landeskog got the power play goal, but other than that, McKinnon, quiet night. Makar, quiet night. Rantanen, quiet night. Kadri missing the net all night. Part of that's the defense position-wise was terrific, and Binnington has been so good that sometimes you try to be too cute and too fine with your shot, right? Connor, you're a good person to ask anybody that's played the game. When a goalie's just in the zone and I think you're having a hard time beating him, and the defense is playing well in front of that goalie too, when you see a guy like Kadri missing the net like 8 times, part of that is, hey, you're trying to be too fine. You're trying to just get the shot in that perfect location because the goalie's just playing so well and the defense in front of the goalie's playing so well. You just try to look for that perfect shot and you end up missing the net a bunch of times.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because your mind immediately goes, "Oh, I got to be perfect," when in reality, the solution's probably just more quantity. Colorado, I think they're probably the most active decor in the league. They do a phenomenal job of getting those guys going in the ozone, and they do a really good job too of having that F3 high kind of create space. But instead of getting confused and creating chaos, St. Louis, like you said, did a really good job of staying tight, staying compact in front of their net. They're going to need Binnington to be great to win that series, and he was good last night. And yeah, like you said, I mean, a split in Colorado, I think that's perfect for St. Louis coming home now, and hopefully they got to get at least one at home, obviously. But yeah, that's a good looking bet at this point. I'd say that game to go to 6, or a series to go to 6. Excuse me.
And a pedestrian 3 shots on goal last night for Nathan McKinnon. We've been talking about the shots on goal props. We always talk player props on the show here every day with every game, and the over shots on goal for Nathan McKinnon's like automatic, even at 4.5 and 5 shots on goal with this where the prop has been. We've seen him have 8, 9, 6, 8, 6, 9. In the last 7 games before last night, where he only had actually last 6 games, and then last night he only had 3, which is an ultimate credit to the St. Louis Blues again and the way they defended last night. And, Darcy Kemper's been great all season, but an ill-timed weak goal that went in on him was the 3rd goal. I mean, it was definitely one that hit his glove and it went in, and that was the backbreaker because that's what extended that 3rd period lead for St. Louis to 3-1. So tough goal to give up, but Kemper's, still had a great season overall. Just the timing of that certainly wasn't great. But give the Blues credit. They made a loud statement last night that we're in this series and we're in it to win it. We're not just here to compete against this juggernaut Colorado team. And people just assume we got swept last year by Colorado, that the same fate's going to happen this year when we play them. And they made a loud statement. We're in this series with that win last night.
I'm sure Colorado's probably really frustrated too, because if you look at those 3 goals, like you said, 3rd one's off his glove and in, probably like a save there if it's going to hit his glove. And then that first one off of Girard's stick, rolling puck. And then the 5-on-3 late in the second. I mean, it's just, those are 3 goals that you're probably sitting there going, okay, we can, that make sure that doesn't happen next game. But yeah, I'm sure Colorado probably frustrated to be going back to St. Louis 1-1 instead of up 2-0.
There's no question about that. They are. And I'm frustrated with the Denver media. And what some of the questions they were asking last night after that game to Nathan McKinnon, who's been always gracious, who's always, answering the questions, win, lose, or draw. And, obviously we know Colorado, this is the round that has been their bugaboo. They have not gotten past the 2nd round since, McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, that core trio has been here with Colorado. And obviously it's going to be a talking point for certain members of the media in post-game press conferences. So yeah, that was a tough loss. You never like to give up home ice. You like to, win every home game, but now obviously you're 1-1 and the series is going back to St. Louis. So it's a little small edge for the Blues now. But one of the questions to Nathan McKinnon last night after that game from, I don't know who it was. Thank goodness I don't think it was Adrian Dater, who is one of Jimmy Murphy's colleagues at Hockey Now. who covers the Avalanche. I don't think it was him. It was someone else, which is good because I would have ripped him for the question. But the question that someone else asked McKinnon last night, are you really worried now about this series now after tonight's result? Are you worried now? I mean, what the hell kind of question is that? The series is 1-1. What you really think that little of this team mentally? I get it. They've had problems in the second round. They had a tough end of the series in the second round against Vegas last year. Remember, they were up 2-0. They lost 4 straight.
Yep.
After that, it was a tough way to go out, no doubt. But this team's past is allowing and apparently permitting the media there to ask these ridiculous, asinine, and quite frankly unacceptable questions. To ask someone of Nathan McKinnon's, who's nothing but a stand-up person off the ice, with the way he's played for this organization, to ask him whether he's worried now in this series about losing it when the series is tied 1-1 and we've only played 2 fucking games in the series. It's aggravating to me. It pisses me off. It's why sometimes I don't like it when the players have to deal with some of these schmucks in the media that ask questions like that. This team that's just been so good all year can't go to St. Louis and win a game?
Yeah.
3 and 4? Like they can't win a game in St. Louis. Apparently this guy thinks they can't win a game in St. Louis, the way he's talking. That really we've got to be so damn petrified, scared, and worried now that the series is tied 1-1. God damn it, that's such a stupid question.
Especially
to media pass revoked for asking something like that. But anyway, Connor, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like that's of course they're not worried. It's their first loss in the playoffs. Like they're an unreal team, best in the league probably on paper. I mean, it's no, I don't think they're worried at all.
It's 1-1.
Yeah, no, that is a stupid question for sure.
It is. It's just absolutely terrible. Yeah. I don't know. And I think this team deserves a little more kind of respect than that. I know that this round of the playoffs has been a tough one for them, but I just didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. Could you at least wait till maybe they're facing an elimination game before you say you're worried? I mean, if they're down 3-2, and the series is going back to St. Louis for game 6, I don't even think that's a good question after that game. But at least they're facing elimination. And the next game, if they lose it, their season's over again in the second round. But holy shit, we're talking 1-1. We're talking 2 games into the series. Let's calm down on we're worried where the way this series is going right now. It's 1-1. And so team in Colorado that can certainly win some road games in this series.
Sure.
So definitely a bizarre question in my mind, but we'll see how Colorado responds. Game 3 will be tomorrow on Saturday in this series. All right, let's get to tonight's games. We've got 2 of them. We will start with Game 2, Eastern Conference second round matchup. New York Rangers, Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina -165 home favorites. 5.5 the total in this game. I'm in a good position right now, Connor, with this series. I took Carolina to win Game 1 and the series, a combination bet, and it was plus 105. So it was plus money. And that's what I took before the series started. Carolina didn't look good in Game 1 for a large part of it, but they came back and won in overtime and lead the series 1-0. And so as a result right now, I'm in a good situation with that because now I've essentially got Carolina to win the series at plus 105 when the current series price everywhere has Carolina about minus 350, now to win the series after winning Game 1. So I'm in a great spot with a great price, with Carolina now plus 105 to win the series. I like Carolina to actually win tonight again, but I'm not going to lay minus 165. I have no reason to. I've already got them to win the series plus 105. I'm very, very satisfied with that. But I worry about the Rangers considering they played as good a game as they've played in these entire playoffs, and that includes the first round against Pittsburgh. I mean, you talk about team defense and having a 5-man unit in all 3 zones and playing great. Everybody was connected. There wasn't a gap between the defense and the forwards at any point on the ice. It was a tight, strong, structured defensive game on the road from the New York Rangers in Game 1. So good that they deserve to win. Let's be honest. For the majority of that game, they were the better team. But all it takes against Carolina is one mistake and one great play. And it was a mistake defensively, to let Aho get behind. And it was a great pass from Seth Jarvis, who I've been singing the praises of all season long. He's totally showing you why Rod Brindamore's got him playing top line right now with Aho and Svechnikov on that Carolina team. He's been magnificent. A great pass to Aho, and he gets this initial shot that Shesterkin stops. But what I like is that he stopped in front of the net after the initial shot was stopped. He didn't go for a free skate in the corner or behind the net. He stopped right in front of the net, got the loose puck, got the second chance, and put it past Shesterkin to tie the game 1-1 with 2 minutes left in the third period the other night. And then the overtime goal was a bad break for the Rangers, no question. It ticked off the stick of the defenseman Ryan Lindgren, took just a smallest of deflections, but clearly totally changed directions. Nothing Igor Shesterkin could have done. Ian Cole gets the game winner in overtime. And for the Rangers, when you play as good as you did, and Carolina played probably as poorly as they did, at any point in these playoffs, and for the Carolina Hurricanes to still win that game, first I'm concerned about how do the Rangers bounce back? How do they respond mentally? They've got to put themselves in the frame of mind of, okay, we should have won that game, but we've got to feel confident about going into tonight rather than, oh, we lost that game. We let it get away. What a missed opportunity. It's all about the mental frame of mind. Mm-hmm. You've got to look at the positives. And if you're Gerard Gallant, you've got to try to hammer home and accentuate the positives of what they did in game one, that you played a great game for 58 minutes or so, especially at the defensive end. And hopefully that's enough to get them revved up again to play another strong road game tonight here in game two to try to tie the series. But easier said than done. You lose a game like that, it can be difficult. And can we bank on Carolina being that bad at home again for a second straight game? I'm not so sure. So I think they win tonight, Carolina. Certainly if you're not involved in the series, maybe I'd look Carolina in regulation tonight. Or if you think this game could go to OT again, you can just play it safer with the minus 165, although that is a bigger price to lay if you're going to take them. But I think Carolina can win once again tonight, and it'll be a little bit challenging for the Rangers to even it up. The total, I think, could go either way. I mean, I usually like to look for a higher scoring game when it was that tight and that low scoring in game one, so I would lean over, but I don't love it. And the one thing about these two teams, Connor, they're number one and number two all season goals allowed in the NHL. Two of the better defensive teams in the NHL, and boy, they sure looked like it if you watch the way game one unfolded. I'll get to props in a second for this game, but first we'll get thoughts from Connor. Connor, what do you like here, Rangers, Hurricanes?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Carolina's had an interesting playoff so far where I think they're 5-0 at home, but 0-3 on the road. But they're really tough to beat at home. They've proven they're tough to beat at home so far in the playoffs. But I think it might actually benefit the Rangers a bit more if they can open up the game a little bit. Maybe not a full-on track meet, but get the pace up a bit. Like guys like Panarin and Zibanejad and Kreider, who are really like kind of scoring in bunches. They're that kind of players. But I think Carolina will win the series. But tonight, I think I'm actually leaning Rangers. I like them in a bounce back, and I think it'll probably be the over. I don't think it'll be a crazy high scoring game, but I could see a 4-3 or a 4-2 game for sure.
Liking the dog and the over here is Connor. New York plus 145, over 5.5 is now like plus 100 essentially. You can get a DraftKings with the over here in this game. So if at that price, I'm almost willing to say I think I will have a small piece of the over at that number. I mean 5.5 plus 100. You got to think Carolina said, and Rod Brindamore had a great interview with Emily Kaplan on the ESPN. She does a great job, by the way. Her questions are phenomenal. She's one of the actually better interviewers in the entire league right now, Emily Kaplan for ESPN. But Rod Brindamore said to her that our passes were sloppy. Our passes aren't connecting. We're just not getting we're just not crisp with our execution. Passing is not sharp. Half the time they're passing the puck and the player isn't there. That happened a bunch to Carolina in game one. You've got to think they try to iron that out and smooth that out a little bit here tonight in game two. As far as props go, I'm going back to the well with Seth Jarvis. There's no way I'm not. He has been a points machine here in the playoffs, and especially on home ice. He's been really good here at home in the playoffs, but still overall in the postseason, 2, 4, 5, 6 points for Seth Jarvis in 8 playoff games. 4 goals as well during that span, or 3 goals, I should say, as well during that span. So Seth Jarvis to collect a point. You could even sprinkle on the goal score prop for him, and over shots on goal for sure. With Seth Jarvis, we have seen him really shoot the puck a lot in recent games. He had 3 shots, 8 shots. One game where he actually got blanked in terms of shots in Boston, but at home, 3 and 3 in the last 2 games, 8 shots on goal in the 5-1 win against Boston. So he's really been shooting the puck a lot here on home ice as well. So the shots on goal for Seth Jarvis, probably a good look as well in terms of props. Now, I always say Max Domi has value because he's on the second line. He was quieter, obviously, in game 1. Everybody was quieter for the most part for Carolina in game 1. But Max Domi's still on that second line with Trocheck and Teravainen, and he's not getting priced to score a goal or collect a point like his line mates are because of the fact he just recently got bumped up. And Connor, that's actually a strategy that I've talked about when you're looking at player prop wagering in the NHL. Bet on the player that's moving up the lineup. That's just moving up the lineup from the third line to the top line, third line to the second line. Anyone moving up the lineup because you're going to get a better price, better odds with their goal score prop to get a point, shots on goal. You're going to get better numbers compared to the other players on that line that have been there and that have been established on that line all year. I find it's great, a positive expectation, value-laden bet. And often, and I'll let you speak to this, often you get the player moving up the lineup playing a hell of a game when they get that opportunity. Suddenly they're playing with better players. They might get some power play time, either with the first power play unit or the second. And all of a sudden, it goes right to their legs that, hey, I'm getting this opportunity in the top 6 now. I need to make the most out of it. Makes sense to you, right?
Absolutely, it does. And yeah, Max Domi, especially, like, he's a really skilled player. He scored a ton at that level. And yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense for sure.
Yeah, and he did in Game 7. How about that performance against the Boston Bruins? Outstanding job for sure. As far as the Rangers go, it's been that same group of prop players for me with them. It's been Andrew Kopp. It's certainly been Adam Fox to get a point or shots on goal. Makes sense for him from the blue line. He's usually played a part in most of the Rangers' offense. I could never say don't bet props for Kreider and Zibanejad and Panarin because they're the go-to guys, but don't sleep on Ryan Strome and don't sleep on Andrew Kopp. Andrew Kopp's had a great playoffs here for the New York Rangers, formerly of the Winnipeg Jets, and definitely someone that I'm always considering too for props. So definitely there's a few prop looks for me in the game tonight. All right, let's turn our attention now to the Battle of Alberta. Edmonton, Calgary. We've got Calgary minus 170, home favorites here in game 2. The total in this one, 6.5. Interesting that we had a 9-6 shootout at the OK Corral there in game 1 in Calgary, and yet this total is only a half goal higher than it was in game 1. I mean, the game game 1 total was 6. This total is only 6.5. So there's only been a small adjustment here in terms of the total for this game. And when you look at it, I don't think it's enough. And I know there's going to be the sentiment that some people have that this game is suddenly going to be tighter than a drum. Both coaches are going to be very angry with the way their teams defended in game 1. And I think there's some truth to that. And both goalies will want to play better. Mike Smith for Edmonton and Jacob Markstrom for Calgary, no question. Neither of those goalies played well in game 1. But there are some, I just think in this series, and I don't think we're going to get 9-6 again tonight, but to cash over 6.5, we don't need to get that kind of score. We could get 5-2, 5-3, 4-3, and that's still enough to get over the total. I still think there's advantages here with the offenses for both teams. Calgary can roll 4 lines and waves, and many of them can contribute. I think if you want to be nitpicky, you can say that Brett Ritchie, Trevor Lewis, and Milan Lucic aren't going to give them a whole lot of offense, but even Brett Ritchie scored one of the goals for Calgary in game 1. And certainly you can get offense from the top 3 lines. Gaudreau, Lindholm, and Tkachuk, an incredible top line. Mangiapane, Backlund, and Blake Coleman is now on the second line. I said once this guy starts scoring goals, you bet his props every game. He's undervalued. He can still get plus 300, plus 350 with Blake Coleman to score a goal tonight. To get a point, if you can find it, is probably worth a look. And he had a bunch of chances against Dallas. The puck just didn't go in for him. Finally, he gets his first 2 playoff goals of this year's playoffs in game 1 against Edmonton. And Blake Coleman's just went, 8 playoff goals for the Tampa Bay Lightning last year when they won the Stanley Cup. And he plays big in the postseason. So Coleman props make sense to me. And now he's on the second line. Sutter giving him that little bump up the lineup tonight. He'll be on the second line with, it looks like, with Michael Backlund and Andrew Mangiapane. You've got Dylan Dubé, Callie Yarncroke, and Tyler Toffoli on the third line. Very interesting now that Sutter's got Toffoli more in a checking role, and which he's very adept at playing because he's a good two-way player, and he knows Daryl Sutter well. They won Stanley Cups together in Los Angeles with the Kings. And, Sutter always raves about his play away from the puck, that he's a 200-foot player. And he knows that he's kind of struggling offensively a little bit here in these playoffs. So he figures, I'm going to put him on the third line role, put him in more of a checking role. Knowing Toffoli's demeanor, this isn't going to bother him. He's perfectly fine, whatever it takes to help the team win. And I think that line's going to be effective with Dubé, Yarncroke, and Toffoli. So I like the way the lineup's deployed. I still think you could go a bunch of different directions. I think you've got to take Lindholm to score a goal, collect a point, shots on goal as well for Lindholm. I mean, he's absolutely a must right now with the way he's playing. But I think Coleman's my second favorite Calgary player prop tonight after that. For Edmonton, in terms of player props, I would just stick with Yamamoto and Kane, the supporting cast. Leon and Connor definitely are always a threat, but you're always having to pay not as good of a price to back them in terms of their props. So you got to look down the lineup a little bit. And to me, that's always Yamamoto and Kane. No question about that. They are the ones that can be very dangerous as well. Yamamoto scored the other night, and he had a bunch of chances earlier in the playoffs. It's only a matter of time before he connects. Zach Hyman had a great game one. There's another player prop worth looking, and you'll get better odds with those players to score a goal, collect a point compared to Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. And Leon's still not quite 100%, still playing through that ankle sprain as well that he's dealing with. So those are the props I like. As far as the side goes, it's tough because Calgary to me is just deeper at the blue line especially. I mean, Edmonton after Darnell Nurse, Cody Ceci, I know he had a big goal against LA, and then they're talking about him like he's Bobby Orr. I mean, let's calm down a little bit here. I know he had a big game against LA, talking about him like he's Scott Niedermayer. I mean, my goodness, let's settle down a little bit here. He had a big goal, but remember, this is also a guy that couldn't stick with Ottawa, couldn't stick with Toronto, so keep that in mind. You've also you look down the rest of the defensemen, Tyson Barrie, more offensive than defensive. Evan Bouchard, more offensive than defensive. I hate to say this about Duncan Keith, but he's had an unbelievable career, Hall of Famer, surefire, an incredible career. He's one of the best defensemen for many years in this league, but he's a shell of that right now. And he's looked terrible at times. I mean, the stumbling out of the bar, falling down on the ice a couple of times, just out of position. It's sad to see it for a guy that's had a great career, but Father Time doesn't wait for anybody. And Duncan Keith is finding that out right now. And then Brett Kulak is just a depth defenseman they got from Montreal. So there's a lot of questions about that Edmonton blue line once you get past Darnell Nurse. There's no question. Calgary's deeper there. Calgary, people say Edmonton, is embarrassed that they're going to play better, that losing that game, playing bad. I don't think Calgary, Connor, is very happy with playing the way they did. They let Edmonton back into that game 6-6, and they had to rescue it in the third period. So I think Calgary wants to play better as well. And if both teams want to play better, who are you going to trust? I'm going to trust, I think, the better, deeper team. So I've had a hard time going against Calgary. I initially was leaning Edmonton, but I'm going to stay off. It's just a lean to Edmonton in this one. I'm going to stick with the over. That is my one pregame side or total bet here. I like over this total here, 6.5, and you can get that right now at -110 to -120. And one more thing I'll say, Connor, and then I'll throw it to you. I don't know if you've noticed this. Calgary, you notice these last few games, they have not given up many shots. They have not given up many chances, especially compared to what they're getting. But the chances they've allowed, the shots they've allowed, the majority of them have been high danger, high quality chances, grade A chances. So while they're not giving up a ton of shots and chances, they're giving up incredible quality. It happened against Dallas in game 6 and 7, where they were not giving up a lot of shots, but giving up a lot of quality in those few shots that they were allowing. And it happened again in game 1 against Edmonton. And Calgary found out in that game, look, Dallas doesn't have the high-level finishers to bury some of those chances in the first round. You're going to give up high quality of that magnitude to Edmonton, they're going to do a better job finishing, and they're going to do a better job turning those chances into goals. So that's a concern for me. It was a concern coming into this series. I said, this is the one way Edmonton can win this series. They turn this into a shootout. And even though they're consistently, in my opinion, not going to get the same number of shots and chances that Calgary will. But if they may not need many shots and chances to find the back of the net, if Calgary's going to give up this great quality and let defensemen just walk in from the blue line and go all the way to the net, which they've done multiple times. So Calgary's got to fix that. And it's up to Daryl Sutter. Daryl Sutter's a coach. Usually we trust him to fix that. We'll see if he can tonight. Otherwise, Edmonton is still very much in this series, in my opinion. What do you think, Connor? Battle of Alberta, Game 2.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on Sutter. I mean, he had the comment after last game where he said something like, or somebody asked him about McDavid putting up 4 points, and he said something along the lines of, if he keeps doing that, then have fun in the next round. So I think he will be calling for a response from his team for sure to tighten up. Very rarely are you going to give up 6 in a playoff game and win, if ever. I like Markstrom to bounce back more than I like Mike Smith. So I think I got Calgary tonight winning the game. The over-under scares me a little bit. I don't know which way to lean with that. I can see it go either way. I think it'll be a close game. I don't think it'll be a blowout. But, I just think Calgary, like you said, they got that third line there with Toffoli and, Coleman. If he starts firing, he's a winner. He knows how to win. I think they're just so much deeper, and, I think they're better on the back end. They're better in net. They obviously don't have a McDavid, but they got Kachuk and Gaudreau, which, Edmonton doesn't necessarily have. I think Calgary definitely – I don't know if it'll be a long series, but I think every game will be close. But, I like Calgary tonight for sure. And then, like you said with Lindholm, he's just been automatic right now. And you got to think Calgary's game plan tonight is throw everything at the net. So I like Lindholm over. I think I saw him 2.5. So I like him over on the shots for sure. No, definitely. I think Sutter will want his team to tighten up, and Edmonton will, they just got to play tight and basically hold serve when McDavid and Draisaitl are on the ice and let them do their thing when they are.
Yeah, there's no question. That's going to be a big part in it. Neutralizing McDavid. If they neutralize McDavid at any point in this series, they're going to win this series hands down. The Calgary Flames, no question. And it is kind of comforting that, Connor McDavid, 4 points in game 1 and Calgary still won. But obviously that's not the blueprint for success moving forward. You try not to allow 4 points to number 97 for the Edmonton Oilers there, Connor McDavid, or else you're definitely playing with fire, no pun intended. But yeah, I think when you look at it here for Calgary, they've got a better game in them too. I know Edmonton will play a lot better, but I think Calgary's probably got a better game in them too. And to be honest, for the early part of that game, they were dominant. There was domination for the Flames, and still the overall advanced numbers were in their favor in that game. So there's still a lot of reasons to like Calgary here to take a 2-0 series lead. But I'm going to stay off, minus 170, not going to get involved in because I do think Edmonton and the one thing about Mike Smith too is he's been a good bounce back goalie, throughout the playoffs. He has shown that so far. Can he do it again this time around? I mean, it's one thing to bounce back against LA. LA is a little bit more, I don't know, the third and the fourth line to me for LA just do not have the punch that Calgary's does.
Yeah.
So that's why this is going to be probably a little bit of a tougher challenge in terms of Mike Smith being able to put game 1 behind him and then bounce back strong with a great performance tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, LA, I mean, they're definitely a step behind Calgary just in terms of where they're at on their development, I guess. Like Calgary, I think, is that team that's ready to go win now. And they've just done a better job, I think, of building that roster top to bottom. So I think, their depth, Edmonton just doesn't have it to the bottom of their roster. They can compete with Calgary. And I think ultimately that'll probably be the difference in the series because McDavid's going to get his points. Gaudreau's going to get his points. Smith is not going to give up 9 every night.
He'll better not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he'll bounce back. He'll play okay, but it might be the kind of thing where if he plays better tonight, maybe that looks like letting in 4, but that still might not be enough. If Calgary can play the kind of game that they're capable of, and that Sutter, I'm sure, will want them to play. But yeah, I think it's a shame for Edmonton. Probably, I mean, you're sitting there thinking you probably wasted one in game 1. nice gift on the road where Markstrom's not stopping anything. And McDavid has 4 points. He scores 6, but he just gave up way too many, and a missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So that is that's going to be it's going to be interesting. Like I say, I'm sticking to my opinions here that this is probably going to be enough of a high-scoring game to go over 6.5. I mean, obviously, I had over 6 in game one, and it was about as easy as it gets. It was over the total by the early part of the second period.
Yeah.
It had already gone over I don't think it's going to be that easy tonight, but I think we'll get 4-3, 5-2, 5-3, something like that. Not quite 9-6, but I think you'll get enough. I just think, again, Edmonton wants to push the pace, too. Edmonton does not want to be playing, a bit of a, slog fest type of game like Calgary's very adept at playing that way. Edmonton doesn't. I think they realize their best chance is to really get the pace of the game up, and Calgary struggled with that. So I don't think you're going to see Jay Woodcroft try to deviate from that, unless they might go to the well with what St. Louis did last night. Let's line up all our forwards in the neutral zone. I'm sure they're going to try to do it this way and take away that neutral zone speed, and don't let Connor McDavid kind of do what Nathan McKinnon also likes to do, the wheeling and dealing end to end, the way he likes to. Take away that neutral zone ability to just, wheel the puck right through the middle untouched. I think that's definitely something that's definitely one of the adjustments Calgary is probably going to look to make here tonight. And as far as Calgary goes in terms of defending Edmonton, or Edmonton goes in terms of defending Calgary, it's really, you need to sort out your defensive zone coverage. It was abysmal. It was one breakdown after another. It was too many turnovers as well. That's clearly what Jay Woodcroft is going to have to address with his team going into tonight. But even if both teams really do focus defensively, I still think you'll see enough goals here to get over that number. Great stuff with our special guest today, Connor Graham, on the Friday edition of the show. Before we wrap up the show, did you have a favorite team that you cheered for growing up as a kid? Who are they?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny. I didn't really have a favorite team, but I kind of was raised in the house that we were the anti-Leaf people. I know that's not a popular answer in this part of the world, but yeah, it was just kind of one of those things where all my friends are obviously diehard Leaf fans, and it's just kind of fun to give them a hard time. So I wouldn't say I have a favorite team, but I do kind of have a least favorite team.
You have a least favorite team, and that's the Leafs. Well, that's okay by us, because on the Ice Guys show, we've spent many shows in the last 4 or 5 years we've been doing this, just bashing on the Leafs, just absolutely criticizing them and ridiculing them. And I've been the ringleader of that effort for the last few years on this show, criticizing them. I actually took it easy on them after they lost to Tampa in 7 games, because at least their effort was commendable. They battled, they competed. It wasn't a disgraceful choke job and meltdown and just no show in Game 7 like it was last year against Montreal. They lost in a much more honorable way this year against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But nevertheless, it's a results-oriented business, and they're still out in the first round again. And it's still pain at the end of the day for them.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're a good team for sure. But like you said, like at some point you got to win. Doesn't matter who you play. Like if you're going to win the cup this year, you got to beat Tampa at some point, probably. So it's another tough year for them, I guess.
And Tampa survived an incredibly tough effort from the Leafs, and now look what they're doing, up 2-0 on Florida, and looking to improve on that. So the Leafs, and they're standing pat. We saw I don't think we talked about the Leafs press conference much earlier this week, but so I'll do it now briefly. But they're not changing much. At least in the front office is going to be the same. It's still going to be Shanahan and Dubas, president and GM. It's still going to be Sheldon Keefe as head coach. Maybe they make a trade, and like the guy that they're mentioning is William Nylander. That's the player they're saying might get traded just to shake up some semblance of the core. Because Matthews isn't going anywhere. Marner's not going anywhere. Riley's not going anywhere. Those guys are definitely coming back. They might just do a small little a trade of like a Kerfoot or a Nylander, someone else, just to give them a little bit of a different look and feel, going into next year. And then they've got the question marks. Do we bring back Jason Spezza for another year? Does he retire? And he's already said it's either I come back to Toronto, play for the Leafs, or I'm retiring. And then there's Jack Campbell, who they haven't committed yet to bringing back, which, and I understand that, but at the same time, you're not going to get a high-priced goalie either, because you don't have the cap space. You're a salary cap strapped team, so you can fucking forget about doing that. and Jack Campbell actually played very well for you this year. So, if you don't re-sign Jack Campbell, what the hell are you doing in net next year? That's my question to Kyle Dubas. So I know there's all of a sudden some rumblings that it's looking maybe more likely than not that they don't re-sign Jack Campbell. But my question is, who the hell are you going to get if it's not going to be Jack Campbell as your number one next year?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's their biggest problem probably is their lack of flexibility. Like, I don't even think you could trade. Like, you can't trade Tavares even if you wanted to. And not that that's the answer. I think John Tavares is an incredible hockey player and a great human being. But yeah, like Nylander is really their only option. And then, like you said, whatever they do in net is probably going to be at least a lateral move if it's not bring Campbell back, just because of where they're at in the cap and who's going to be available.
Yeah, no question about that. I do want to say though, I do have mild interest in, and I will sprinkle this, and I'll actually post this on Twitter, a little bit on the draw tonight in the Flames Oilers game. I get a sense it could be OT. I don't know. I've just got that feel to it tonight that I think both teams really bring it tonight. Even though Calgary won game one, they're up 1-0. They want to play better. They know they can play better. They know they have to play better. And certainly Edmonton goes without saying. They know they have to play better. You can't bury yourself in the first period like they did in game one. So both teams bring it. And because of that, I think a close game. And I think draw at a good plus price is worth a look. So I'm gonna have a few bucks on that tonight. Edmonton Calgary draw. I think that's better than me trusting either side because I don't want to lay it with Calgary. At least Edmonton I think, will be competitive, but do I want to take plus 150 when I can take plus 370? Which is what you can get the draw at some places. Right. So I think the draw is worth a few bucks there on the Oilers Flames. Plus 370, the price for that. Terrific price.
Yeah, you might talk me into that in the over. But for sure, I think it'll be a close game for sure, though. Like, I don't see another blowout tonight at all.
Yeah, I think it will be. So just a late breaking edition there for my card tonight. That the draw plus 370. I do think that's worth a little bit of a shot there in the Edmonton Calgary game tonight, game 2 of that series. All right, great stuff with Connor Graham. We thank him for joining us on the show, and welcome back anytime if you want to before the end of the season. And a reminder, the Ice Guys about DraftKings Sportsbook. Then we'll get to best bets, but DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL team, get $150 in free bets. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN, bet just $1 on any NHL team, and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. All right, best bets to wrap up the Friday edition of the show. Connor, we'll start with you. First ever best bet here on the Ice Guys show. What do you like?
Well, I like I said earlier, I love Lindholm to go over 2.5 shots tonight. I think Calgary will be firing everything at the net, and I think Lindholm will be one of the guys leading the charge. And yeah, I'd say that's the one I feel most comfortable with tonight.
Funny, Luc Olivier Blanc was on the show Wednesday, and his best bet was an Elias Lindholm prop. And he cashed it in the first minute. It was him to score a goal, plus 165. And of course, he scores in the very first minute of game one. And Connor's going to the well again with Elias Lindholm prop for his best bet. Elias Lindholm over 2.5 shots on goal, minus 130 is the price with that. Elias Lindholm over 2.5 shots on goal. Best for Calgary, best bet for Connor Graham. My best bet is going to be from that same game, and I'm going back to the well with the over here tonight. 6.5, Edmonton, Calgary, minus 110 is available at some spots with that. I certainly think both teams will clean some things up defensively and be a little bit better, but I don't know if they'll be good enough to keep this game below 7 goals total. I still think there's extreme offensive advantages that Calgary has against Edmonton and vice versa, with Edmonton pushing the pace, driving the play. And we have seen in the last few games of these playoffs, the Calgary Flames have given up not many shots and chances, but The shots and chances they've allowed have been very high danger, high quality looks, the kind of looks the Edmonton Oilers can bury if they get them. So I like Oilers Flames over 6.5, -110. Game 2, Battle of Alberta for my best bet here for this Friday NHL card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Connor, final words before we wrap it up.
Yeah, just thank you very much for having me on. Always welcome the opportunity to come and talk some hockey, and yeah, hopefully we're able to pick some winners tonight. So we'll see how it goes, but it'll be a fun night of hockey, fun weekend for sure. I know there's a lot going on with the PGA, and the Preakness is running this weekend if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, for sure, really appreciate the opportunity and would love to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, Connor. We'll see if we can get you back on again before the playoffs. I'm sure some of the guests, we will have them on a second time. Some have expressed interest, so we will definitely look. And yes, I am betting the PGA Championship. We got lots going on with that. No doubt. We got second round leader bets. We've got freaking heads, 3 balls. We've got everything going with the golf bets this weekend, and we got Matt Kuchar right in the mix, Chris Kirk right in the mix, big like 150, 200 to 1 shots to win the tournament. So again, work to do. Rory ain't going to be easy to beat. Will Zalatoris ain't going to be easy to beat. Some of these guys at the top, but very exciting start to the PGA Championship in Oklahoma. Very interested observer and seeing how that plays out for sure. All right, great stuff. That's a wrap. We thank everyone for joining us. 82 live viewers on YouTube. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. Tomorrow we're on. Now, I want to mention, actually, before we say goodbye, usually Saturday and Sunday we're on at noon Eastern. We're actually going to be on tomorrow, the Saturday show, at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So the same time as our weekday shows, to accommodate our guest, who, speaking of golf, he's actually going for a round of golf in the morning on Saturday. So it's basically to give him more time to be ready to join us on the show. And that guest, by the way, is Kyle Bond. Kyle Bond will be joining us tomorrow on the Ice Guys show. Of course, has played professionally in recent years, was with the Blackhawks for a bit, Rockford Ice Hogs in the AHL, Toronto Marlies in the AHL as well. So he'll be joining us tomorrow. Kyle Bond, 2 p.m. Eastern. I think we're going to have Vito, of course, our weekend man with us from Latvia, and Alex B. Smith, I think, joining us as well tomorrow. So make sure you join us for the Saturday show at 2 p.m. Eastern with Kyle Bond as our special guest. Looking forward to it. All right, for Connor Graham, our special guest today, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we will talk to you again tomorrow on Saturday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.